I think they grew up and they went their separate ways. Scott, changed, for sure in his, um, his Scott came out as being homosexual. Chris got into drugs. Jared focused on music, and they all sort of just filtered apart. And went their separate ways. Went kind of grew up and grew out of what they were doing. And really, it seems like a lot of bands do this. You grow up as kids, you grow up as high school friends, and then when the real growing up happens, it's sometimes hard to keep it as a tight knit thing. You want to go your separate ways. You want to stand alone. You want to define yourself. And it can happen. Where your definitions don't always work together, and unless you're both on the same sort of path, you're all going to go separate ways. And sometimes bands can go their separate ways and still retain that the business, which is the rock, and that's unfortunately sometimes what it comes down to is it's business. And at that point, certainly for Fits of Depression and Carp as well, it became a business, and it became just touring. And they probably were the same. Again, I was involved in my own stuff, and also I didn't really see a whole lot of the inner workings at the end of Carp. They were busy, we were busy, and they sort of went their ways, we went our ways, and all of a sudden I looked back and we were broken up, they were broken up. What happened? It's hard to really see everything that's happening all at once.
What do you feel about the time period when Scott and Jared started playing together again, and Jared kind of came back to that style?
I'd moved away to Los Angeles, and so I don't really, the Whip, that was the name of the band. I never saw them. I was living in LA. Fitz was touring long distance sort of thing. I was in LA. The drummer was in Portland. The bass player was in Eastern Washington. So we got together, and they'd come down and we'd practice for a few weeks in LA, and then go out and do US tour, whatever. So I wasn't really around up here for the Whip. I didn't see them. I heard they were great, but never saw it.
In reference to Scott's passing, what do you feel about that?
Tragedy. That was awful.
Should incorporate what we're talking about in that.
Yeah. Scott's passing, with the death of Scott. I had just moved up here from Los Angeles and saw him and Jared, and I knew that they were playing together, and the Whip was around, and it seemed like they were both really happy, and it seemed like they had that glimmer and shine like they did when they were kids again. They were smiling like they did when they were kids, and it seemed like everything was going to come full circle, and they were going to start rocking again, and they were happier than hell about it. And then one day, I just heard, shit, Scott got in a boating accident, and it killed him. That threw everybody for a loop. That was really weird and messed up. It seemed like the downtime between Carp and the Whip, they, like I said, I didn't see them play or whatever, but when I first moved back up here, they were getting together and had been playing for a little while. They were obviously happy about it. Him and Jared both had these giant grins, and they were excited. They came to a show we were playing in Seattle, and came and said, yeah, we're playing in this band, and you know, they were smiling like they were kids again, and I could tell they were really excited. And then shortly, just like a month later, he died.
What do you feel about Chris's part in that? I mean, obviously he wasn't there, but I don't think it's too crazy to say that he was always a part of them and of their music.
Carp or the
Carp.
Whip?
Well, Scott and Jared together kind of being happy again, creating the kind of music that they had kind of invented together
Yeah.
when they were kids, only this time without Chris.
Yeah. I don't know if I really want to go into that. Chris and his drug addiction, that kind of stuff. You want me to go into that?
Whatever you feel free to talk about. I mean,
I don't know. I guess I don't really feel it's my place to talk about Chris's demons.
sure. Although you didn't say that it was about him, I kind of felt like it was obvious that it was, and I thought it was really well said. Was that when you were talking about how, like, everybody's got stuff, you live your life, you get distracted, things go on, you lose, your focus, and sometimes the stuff is more stuff than you can deal with.
Right.
So we can leave it at that if you want to. Oh.
Yeah, I could go further into Chris, but I'd rather not.
Well, what about just as aside from things that he got into? What about as just like an emotional being? Like, what was your sense of like his kind of core character?
Chris?
Yeah.
Again, do you mean like during Carp or after?
Yeah, I mean just kind of now looking back, your just kind of general.
Chris was definitely, like I said, he was the comedian. He was the just along for the ride. Not really that concerned with what's going on. He was having a good time all the time until he wasn't, and then he really wasn't. It was really sad when off the record, if we can do this off the record, when I first moved back from LA, he was in bad shape. Like, we were going to a show in Seattle and stopped to get gas up the road up here and saw him wandering around a parking lot, like yelling and swatting at smoke worms, and we're like, Chris, are you all right? What's up? He had no idea who we were. He had no idea where he was. We got him back into his car and went to the show, played the show, came back. It's 4 or 5 hours later. We came back and drove back by the same gas station, and he's still there outside of his car, yelling and screaming. And we pulled over, and the lady said, "You better get him out of here. We're gonna call the cops." And we got him to shoo off, and he took off. But that was he's smoking crack and fucking doing junk and whatever he's doing, but he's not in a good place.
Why do you think people do that?
Well, he's got a lot of inner issues. He's got some intrib stuff going on. He's not stable. He needs to be on medication. And in high school or whatever, it's just being eccentric. It's being wacky. But as you grow older, you realize that it's an actual medical issue, and he wasn't taking care of himself at all, and and then you fall prey to things like heroin and crack and whatever else they're into, and he sort of fell off the deep end. About the time that I left Washington, I was having the same sort of issues going on, and got the hell out of here, and went and cleaned my shit up, and lived in LA for years. And when I came back, he was sort of in the same boat, as he ever was. And actually, when we were in LA, my wife and I talked to her about my friend Chris, who she didn't know, but I said, this good friend of mine, I need to help him out. Let's have him come stay with us for a little while. And he had expressed to me that he was clean, got to LA, he wasn't. He was obviously messed up, and she luckily was gone for a week, visiting her parents, and so that week that he was there, I tried to say, look, you can't be here doing this sort of thing. You're gonna have to, clean it up or, fuck off. And he chose to fuck off. I came home from work one day and he was gone, and then I didn't see him again until I moved up here. He was. I've seen him like 2 or 3 times since I've been back, and I've been back like 4 years. So. But again, all that off the record, please.
Okay. Cool. Do you think it's something that starts to kind of fuel you artistically, and at some point you lose, like,
Drugs?
well, I mean, my kind of personal opinion is that drugs is kind of like a byproduct of some kind of situation that you have organically, so I'm wondering if, like, that kind of wildness in your soul, or whatever it is that, gets you in a situation where you're like, fuck it, let's buy the ticket, take the ride, let's just go ahead and go there. Like, if at one point it's like this exciting, virulent thing that makes your art, and then at the next point it's like the box that...
Yeah, I think a lot of folks, like, they think that it's it's gonna help their their writing abilities. They think it's gonna refluff it or something like that, but it's certainly not the case. It doesn't work like that at all. For me, it was we were doing pretty well. We got signed to Mercury. We were getting fucking pretty big, and I couldn't come off a tour and actually hang out. I'd like try to go to a bar, and it would be oh, blah blah blah, tell me about this, blah blah blah, and have to talk business. I just wanted to hang out. I just wanted to do my thing, and you couldn't go out without people bugging the shit out of you. And so I'd wind up holing up in my apartment downtown, and just like, fuck, I can't even go out. And somebody introduced me to heroin, and it helped with being able to sit in the apartment and just be in dreamland. So you'd come home for those 2 weeks. You'd be out for 2 months, come home for 2 weeks, and you didn't want to go get bugged by people, so you just sit in the apartment, and you wind up doing drugs and just sitting in the apartment. And Chris and I both got into that, and got into it together. And I got out and he didn't, unfortunately. But I think people think that it's going to help. People think that it's going to make you rock, and it does the exact opposite. It takes it away. It fucks it up.
So it might be kind of obvious, but what would you hope for him?
For Chris?
As a friend?
That he could get away from it and pick that guitar up again.
Or maybe put his name in it.
I wish that Chris could, well, I don't really want to put that on.
Oh, okay.
Record. Yeah,
Cool.
I guess I can say it without saying it. I hope that Chris can get back into the rock. I hope that Chris can pick up that guitar again and conquer the world. Jared's done really well with his new band. And it can be done by any of us. You just got to get out there again. You just got to do it.
So really quickly, you were talking in the beginning of this about them being influenced by the Melvins. What do you think about this new development?
It's crazy.
You should go ahead and mention what it is.
With Jared and the Melvins, it's crazy. Growing up, hearing him talk about his feelings about the Melvins, whatever. Obviously, he liked them a lot. Obviously, Carp was a direct derivative of them listening to the Melvins records, and so for Jared to be playing with them now, that's a great thing. That's he's got to be the happiest guy in the world, I'm sure.
Yeah, because also like co-writing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, certainly the newer stuff, but just seeing him, play those older songs that he grew up on, him actually being the guy on the stage playing them, getting the crowd reaction from the stuff that used to move him, you know, that's a wild ride for him, I'm sure.
It's certainly a full circle scenario.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're super late, but one thing before we go, maybe like if you had to give like a couple synopsis of what Olympia is like for people like maybe in another country or a different part of this country that don't have any knowledge of this town, even separate from the music, just or with the music, just kind of what this area or even the Pacific Northwest. A lot of people don't. I've only heard rumors about what the weather or the geography is like.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly like what it was then and what it is now, and it's completely different.
Yeah, the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, the Pacific Northwest is way different than it used to be. It's, I guess, do you want me to talk about what it is now or what it was then? Because it's a lot different.
Maybe a little bit of both.
The Pacific Northwest used to be a place where we had nothing to do with our time. We had no, nobody was in it for, making it big. Nobody had any idea that we would be doing any more than just playing parties or just passing the time really in the practice rooms. And we were making the music just because you had nothing else to do, because we needed to do something to have this outlet, because we weren't the jocks, we weren't the fucking the metalheads, we weren't the regular kids. We wound up just hanging out in practice rooms all day, and that's what we did, and somehow it just evolved into this great music that people went, wow, they're making. And I think the reason that the music that did get made was because of that. It was because we were trapped inside because of the rain. We were trapped inside because there was nothing, no jobs, no place to go, no nothing. We just played music all day, and so we developed all these great bands out of here because of that. And then with the Olympia getting attention and getting write-ups and getting focus and all this, it messed it up really bad. It brought all these people here really quickly. They went, oh, Olympia's a great place for rock bands. Let's all move there and do nothing and sit there and watch, and we've been flooded with all these people that they come here and they don't want to do anything. They just want to sit around and watch it happen, but all the people that were doing it, they moved away and they went other places, and now we're just sort of left with a lot of observers, a lot of people that aren't, they're not making bands, and if they are, they're making them because they think they're going to get somewhere with it. They're not doing it because they have a passion for the music. They're doing it because they think they're going to get rich or get some chicks or get, get a house in the hills or, whatever. It's not because they love music anymore. So Olympia is definitely a different place. I don't know half the musicians here anymore. And it used to be like everybody knew each other, and everybody hung out in the same houses, and everybody hung out in the same practice rooms, and shared the same bands and equipment and all that. But now there's these cliques, and nobody hangs out together anymore.
Do you think this happened all over the nation? Or?
Yeah, for sure. I think punk rock is not what it used to be. People were doing it just because they had nothing else to do, and they were, rocking hard because that's what they did. And now it's, they're hoping to get on the TV or, get on the Warped Tour or get somewhere, and everybody sounds exactly the same, and everybody's, sticking by this formula because it's going to get them where that band got, It's, nobody's coming up with anything original. Everybody's just, flogging a dead horse.
Nice. that was awesome. Any last statements?
Yeah.
That was excellent.
Keep it alive.
I'm gonna run to the car and get the release forms. And Bill, you want to just break this off the tripod?
Break it out. Interesting timing.
Yeah.
Well, do you have the key?
Yeah. Hey, what's up, man? Cool. Oh yeah, I could let out like 2 of mine. I could give you like 2. Yeah, I've only got 1 pad. Okay. Alright, bye. Not a music store.
I think your son's here.
Also interesting timing.
So, just to let you know.
Hi, buddy.
Hey,
Giant fences.
Cool.
here's the one for you. Let's see. I'll take a pen and write. Turn the title right now. It's Park Lives.
Hi.
Probably gonna end up being Kill All Redneck Pricks Park Lives, but
Hello.
let's see. Also, to let you know, what we will do when I get back is transcribe all the interviews. And then probably what we'll do is email with you that transcript so that I can be sure, you know, what material we can talk about, what specific statements
Okay.
when we get to that.
Right.
Alright, here you go. Something.
Did you want to film him like doing?
We can't. Here, let's put this down.
Want me to take the tape out?
Actually, we can do that in the car.
Alright.